then my journey was cut short by a car accident. So I thought, okay, cool. Now I'm here. I can't continue.
But how did the car accident cut your journey, or you had to rethink your life? You know.
Pat. It's Pat on brands. Watch how you branded, man. A pat on the back is a pat from the man. Better be branded, man.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Pat on Brands podcast with me, Pat Mahlangu. Today we have a very special guest. This man flew all the way from the US just to do this podcast, and he's going back again. Mr. Tumelo Chaka, aka the Chief Solutions Officer.
Yo, Pat, I took long to get you. Why do I take so long to get you to?
Yeah, that's how we roll in South Africa.
No.
You must go outside to come back, and that's when you're gonna start, engaging you and be interested in you.
I had to pay money first to get here. But anyway, we are here, Pat. Let's go. Let's go.
Chief Solutions Officer. How did that come about?
Well, it was for me a shift from Chief Township Officer to saying now we are bringing African solutions. So therefore now as Chief Solutions Officer we're saying, well, how do we solution the continent? Because in my earlier tenure of career it was about how do we build a township hub where we bring the township to the former, also called the former market. And I think that we've done well now. Now it's saying how do we bring solutions to the continent and bring global, or take African solutions out to
the world.
Yeah.
Which I find very interesting, because it seems like you're always ahead of the bunch, in a way, because this township thing now people are starting to catch up on it. And we've been at it long before it became sort of a buzz word. No, township economy.
It's been 12 years when nobody ever thought this thing existed, when nobody gave the township view a view. I mean, if you look at Unilever spends 500 billion.
Sure.
Or consumers spend that much money out of the township, and you look at how many households grow every month. 800 households are emerged from townships. Wow! And then that's a very, for me, a big market.
Sure, but before we get into all things marketing and markets and brands, let's get to know you.
I grew up in Kwatwa. I was born in Kronstadt. I then moved with my parents to Kwatwa. And Kwatwa has been a massive educational hub where Dr. T.K. Mopedi built this hub of education where most teachers or people that went or aspired to be teachers came to Kwatwa, to Tia or Bonamelo, and that became the hub. And that's where I grew up. And for me to grow up and say, I too also want to be somebody who is also academic, or academia, and also seeing how can I build something in the world.
Got you.
I mean,
you just finished your PhD, no?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes. Hey, now we must change. Doctor. Now we're joining others now.
Yeah.
No, it was a long journey. But I mean, I've always tried to be ahead of the curve in terms of thinking what's next, thinking where I should be. Initially, my view was to be a CA. But not to be an accountant in boardrooms.
Gotcha.
In fact, my dream was to be a CA who owns an ad agency.
Interesting.
And because then, I mean, in early 2000s, I saw ahead of time that maybe then in the future, one will need to understand markets by knowing stats, which is data. Secondly, being able to then also know numbers for P&L, and then become this creative guy. So already I was thinking the art and science. Because most of us know the art. We know how to be creative and how to do things, but do we know how to measure that art into a science? And my view was, let me do this accounting, be a CA, but run an ad agency.
Got you. But now you didn't do accounting?
No, I did. At school. I did. And my journey was cut short. I had a car accident years ago while I was doing my honors in accounting, which will then enable me to write the CA exams.
Yes.
Just like what Thebe went through. He went to vets, did accounting, jumped off, went to... So then my journey was cut short by a car accident. So I thought, okay, cool, now I'm here. I can't continue.
But how did the car accident cut your journey, or you had to rethink your life, after that?
I had head injuries, so I was diagnosed with the thing that I cannot retain 10% of what I learned, and I had to somehow find a way.
How long ago was this?
That was 07, the 4th of January,
Sure.
9:30.
But now look at you. You have a PhD.
You know,
Modimo Palawalo.
born. You know what? I said to myself, if this is what,
Sure.
I mean, I'm not a very religious person, but
Yes.
I believe in faith.
Uh-huh.
And I remember one pastor once said, if the doctor says this, what does the report of God say? And I thought, you know what, this guy is saying this, what does God say about my life? I said, you know what, I'll go. And from there, I went and did a PDBA, an MBA, and still did well. With a 10%
retention. So imagine if you were at 50%.
Sure.
You'd be Elon Musk.
but I think also it's me accepting that, yes, there's a memory shortcoming, but I can work around it. And I did.
And now, obviously, I understand you grew up in a taxi business.
I grew up in a taxi tuck shop business, but taxi was relatives, and that's where I learned. My dad's cousins owned taxis. My dad owned retail businesses and backrooms. So I learned the art of customers.
So is that what sort of got you sort of more interested in terms of just studying the formal aspect of the township business and also putting it on the
Absolutely. I saw that type of business took me to very good schools. And I thought, if my dad can afford to pay there, and he's not a doctor, he's not a lawyer, he's not an accountant, but he's still able to afford taking us there, that means that there's something here. And also, and having grown around entrepreneurs like Tommy Mahato in Kwatwa, who now owns this big empire, began by owning a hair salon, which became a hair product business, which became a cash and carry. Today is probably, he's competing with ShopRite, Spar, Pick and Pay, and he's actually beating them at the game.
Wow, that's very fascinating. So you did your accounting, you at what? Vet?
No,
UCT?
No, University of the Free State.
University?
Yes, Blom.
Oh, you did your PhD in
UCT. Yes.
And when did you come up to Joburg?
Sure, I came to Joburg in, let me look, I came to Joburg time is it's been so long. Let me think. 2006 I came to Joburg.
And you had a job offer, or you were just coming here to
I came to study.
Or to study.
And then to do my honors after my car accident. And then I failed dismally. Even though I was told I can't tell, I said, let me go show them. I came here, I failed all courses. Flat out. I pushed everything. I moved from home. I moved to stay in Brixton. Is it Brixton? Yeah. Brixton back room. I pushed for the year. I studied every day hard and I failed. Dismally, everything.
Sure.
Now I had to go back home and figure out stuff.
Without
that paper that I came here for. I'd called in KPMG for bursaries. There's a school called FLB, Forbes Liver Baker. They worked with UNISA. They gave me a bursary as well, and I came back with nothing. So I had to now pick myself up from there, having thought, this is that path where I can pave my way through keeping a CA, and I got nothing.
So looking back, what did that sort of failure teach you?
I think for me, I've learned that God does not, when God redirects you, it isn't because he thinks what you're doing is not what is right. It's just that he thinks that there's something better. I think I've probably taken a route that I didn't think was really in my plans, but I think I'm better off.
Wow.
And that's benefit of hindsight, my friend. Back then I thought, my life is gone. I can't be this CA that will go and change the world. But today I look back, and one thing also that accident did for me is that it just brought me down to earth. I got to really understand about being humble, helping people.
Is it where you?
Not really, but I mean, if I was young, I was
on top of the world.
Yes, and I mean, school I was always number one academically. So you never get to learn the art of failure, and winning becomes seductive. When you win and win so often, it becomes just a norm that you can't imagine losing.
Sure.
And when I lost for the first time, when I failed in 21 years, I failed, and to have to go home and say to my parents, I didn't do what I normally do, was hard. And now also you have this thing that what do people who know me
would think and say?
But already, And to have to now adjust myself into that, I think that for me was my biggest lesson. And to pick myself up. I mean, I remember before the car accident, I was running a business. I had left PwC, went into tendering, and I found a gap in the market in Bloom. Things were about to thrive. Then poof, this accident hits me. And then the next job I need to go to was to be a bank teller at FNB. And I was talking to the guy that hired me then, Ishmael Morobani, says to me, the one thing about you will never forget is that you never had the Batu-Balaring syndrome.
Sure.
You went in and became a teller, even though we knew
that
you were
worth so much more. Yeah.
Fast forward, years later, I came back to the same branch as an executive from FNB.
Sure.
That's a gap, and I think that's what for me was that one accident on the 4th of January, 9:30, 2007 did for me.
Sure.
Is it build a different person in me.
And how did the transition, yes, you worked as a bank teller, then marketing, how did that switch?
Even before the accident, I've always loved marketing. I mean, so the accident happened in 2007. 2003, is it in my second year? I sent Thebe an email to say, hey, I'm sitting here now, I'm realizing that I'm doing accounting. You also went through the same route. And I actually love marketing.
How did you find it over? Is it like we had social media there?
No, it was just internet. I remember then it was, I think, Yahoo. Yes. I remember it was Yahoo, and I went to campus lab. I said, top marketers in South Africa, and Thebe's name appeared. And then I thought, this guy with a website. Then I'm
pretty sure the website still looks the same. So you go on to, Yahoo. Yeah,
sure.
2000 don't even know what Yahoo is. You type top marketers in SA, Thebe's name comes.
Yeah, a couple of guys came up, but I saw Thebe and I read his story. That he left Kimberley. I said, now that's so similar. He went to Vets to do accounting. I went to UOFS to do accounting. And then he figured this thing doesn't work for him. I'm also sitting there where I'm like, this thing actually, I don't like it. I love marketing. But parents don't understand. You are the smart guy, you are a top tax scholar. 4 things. You could be a mining engineer, make money, doctor, lawyer, and maybe you could do other stuff that's more office based. And if you say at home, I want to do marketing, you're gonna do door-to-door sales, and this thing, go sell Tupperware. And I didn't know how to show my parents. And I remember first year I applied to be a doctor, and I got in at UOFS to be a doctor, but then I changed because I don't like blood, and I'm like, how do I service people if I can't deal with blood? I said, best thing is do accounting. And when I saw Thebe's journey, I then sent him an email. I still remember it was thebe@bicalafriend.com.
It still is.
I sent him an email. And then I would come every day to check on my Yahoo if he has done, if he's even sent me back.
Imagine the anxiety.
He's like going to respond.
Now we have our phones.
And I would come there and he did it.
Wow.
And I said to him, I would like.
In order to respond, you said,
sure. You know what? I just remember him saying to me, if you can come to Joburg, if you can bring yourself here, I can show you a few things. And I thought, and I remember then it was SA Road Link. It was 99 Rand. From Bloom to Joburg. And I remember saying to Klopo, I'm coming to Joburg, but I didn't tell him why I'm coming. I said, can you please host me at your flat?
Sure.
I came here, and when I arrived, Klopo picked me up from.
Did you have at least a cell phone then?
I think I had a 5110. And then a black one. And I arrived there, I said, man, I'm here, I'm meeting a guy called Thebe. I said, no, actually, I work for Thebe. Wow. And then they worked for, Thebe was at Two-Tone.
Wow.
With Carlo. And then they just moved into their offices down there. Now Thebe just moved into brand leadership as a business. And I spent time with Thebe, and I got to experience him rebranding University of Northwest. And I saw the whole journey that he did with his team, and I remember I was there also when he was presenting the brand stuff at University of Northwest. I said, this is what I want to do.
But shout out to Dr. T. For someone to take you in like that, not knowing you from a bar soap, and just and someone said, I'm not sure if you were still at the launch when Tsepang spoke about
Yes.
learning from Thebe. He
Yes.
said you don't learn from Thebe by reading
No.
stuff. You learn by observation. So he takes you through,
Absolutely. And just to know, he made me watch the Apple Air 1984 the whole day. He gave me a MacBook and said, 2 things I want you to sit here with.
Yeah.
Whilst I'm busy. He said, watch JF Kennedy's speech, going to the moon.
Which one?
And then the Apple ad.
Wow.
And I sat there, and that ad is only a minute long. There's so many times you can watch that thing. I watched it the whole day.
He asked you the crazy one.
Exactly. But what Thebe did is he saw what I was going to experience years later. Wow. Because I would be the misfit. I would be the rebel.
Sure.
I would be the one that doesn't conform to a lot of things. And I get wowed on how he saw this thing 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
Wow.
He saw it, and even probably even 21 years ago. Yeah, actually.
Yeah,
he saw it, and I always said, "Tell me, but how do I make people? How do I convince the world that I'm not an accountant?" And because I'm doing accounting, I mean, I didn't work, and I've not gone out there to do marketing or work at Unilever, but the journey has actually worked itself out.
But fast forward, I mean, you were an executive at FNB. How did you climb up?
Sure.
As one would call it, the proverbial ladder.
I think I went back to front. I did what most people do later in life. I did first. I became a pure entrepreneur first, and I really went through the struggles of going to convince the world that you can bring solutions to them. And later on, I said, okay, fine. How do I then build a brand that is Tumelo Chaka that will then become what people know to be the one that can do things for them? Then I went back to corporate, but I think what became the turning point again I'll refer to Thebe, is when I began my MBA, Thebe showed me what I call the hygiene triangle. The triangle cut into 3 pieces. He says that on top is claim, in the middle is evidence, at the bottom base is hygiene. He said to me, hygiene, if you smell, Pat, everybody will walk away from you, they will tell you what you smell, but if you smell nice, people don't tell you. He says, make sure that your hygiene is so strong that nobody will question why you are in the room. So your hygiene is your MBAs, your PhDs, that allows you to go into a room and nobody questions.
Wow.
But I can wear shorts. I mean, a month ago, or I think so, I went to, and I was presenting to SABC execs, and I was wearing shorts, and nobody questioned it. Why? Because the hygiene is there. Hygiene is there. And then he said to me, make sure you do great work, so nobody questions the work. And then only then make a claim of who you are, chief solutions officer, whatever. Says, but most people give you the claim of who they are. They've got very shaky evidence, and they've got no hygiene. So my job was to build that thing, to make sure that if I build my hygiene, I can go back to corporate and present my hygiene, and present the work that I've done and my claim. And that's how I got, in fact, forget FNB, that's how I got into NetBank, where I now became a head for emerging payments, and trying to bring new solutions to the Township. FNB was even now where now the brand was running, and we're now trying to really, really, really put a dent in the market where FNB can win market share in the emerging markets.
Sure. Your story is very fascinating, and I always say, like, right now I've got this thing where I say, as a human being, you must move like a spider, like 8 legs. You mustn't be doing one thing, and when they think you're gonna come with this leg, you show them the other.
Absolutely.
Then you're now ambassador for Brand SA. You sit on an advisory board for How Train. How's that happening?
I think if you look at the bamboo tree, the Chinese bamboo tree, it takes 5 years to water. So you plant a seed on the ground, and you're hoping that you still find the same ground parameter. You water it every single day. If you miss one day, it will die. But when that seed rises up, it takes 5 weeks to grow 80 feet tall. So I see my life and career as a bamboo tree. That there's that 5 years that no one saw when I was watering every day, building that hygiene, make sure that I'm in places where I can contribute. Sometimes I did work for people and corporates for free, just to get that level of exposure. But when the tree came up, 80 feet tall, then you got Gautrain things coming, then you got Brand SA things coming,
Yeah.
and things are coming. But it's been work that's been brewing for many years. For me, it's been 10 years.
Got you.
Plus. So I think now it's time for me to contribute to the country. I believe that even shifting the view of how marketers are viewed, because I believe I'm a through and through marketer, but we say the future CMO must just be the guy with the art. It's saying, how do you bring the science into it? How do you bring collaboration with the CFO, the CEO, where my concern as a CMO or a marketer is how do we grow customer growth? How do we impact the brand? And also how do we measure investment?
Very profound indeed. I mean, you, like I said in the intro, you just got off the plane, in New York. We saw what I'd like to call a virtual fashion show of some sort. Because, you really showed up, big time in all your, African attire. You were wearing local brands. You were just looking fine the whole time. I was really fascinated. I think it was over 4 days.
4 days, yeah.
4 days, and every day it was a different outfit. Just talk to us about Advertising Week, as a platform. And what you saw, in New York this year and what you experienced. Yeah,
this was my third installment.
Oh.
And the last two, I'd seen how I'd pitched and showed up, and how I'd learned. My first time in New York was in 2022.
Oh, is it?
It was the first time.
You were walking those streets like you walked them for 10 years.
No, and it's just about adapting for me. But this year I went there with a view of let's be intentional. And I'm fortunate to have a team around me that keeps me in check. Let's be intentional this year, and let's go there. Let's take Africa to New York. And from when we got there to presenting Matt, the AdWeek chairman with blankets, to his family. Let's build the culture of wearing blankets globally. And when I was talking to the former CMO of Aranda, whom I met years ago, is Tom. We said, how do we build that thing? How do we take the culture of wearing blankets globally? And we did here. And the view for me was, at AdWeek you learn a lot. And when you benchmark globally where we are in South Africa, then you see where the gaps are. One thing that I've seen is that for me, I hold deal is the future is female. That's a big component of AdWeek, where I think maybe we need to do better globally. Is how do we see the diversity of having women in the room, and how does that enhance the creativity that we produce from ads to just any work that goes to consumers as marketers. So that for me was one of the key stuff, and that goes to the person I hold in high regard, is Thomas Sankara of Burkina Faso. He was a big advocate of female emancipation, not empowerment. If women are the other half of the sun in the moon, and for me that is big at AdWeek. Secondly, for me was also looking at the Gen Z market. That is a big market because Gen Z is now.
I read a report that I think 60% of the Gen Zs that were hired at the beginning of the year by big corporates in the US are now being fired.
Because they think differently. What they value is different. You and I maybe come from a generation where keeping a job is important. That gives your societal upbringing. Pet is now.
I know them here. They'll design without a job. And I'm like, why are you leaving a job when you don't have a job?
Absolutely, because
I don't care.
What they value Pet is different. They're saying, does this corporate deal with environmental stuff? Do they contribute to society? Or is only the focus of making money? And they say, I don't want to be part of just a money-making scheme where I'm not giving back to my community.
Sure.
And that's.
I want to be part of something that's bigger than.
Absolutely. And that's where, as well, the second point of AdWeek now was how do we market to Gen Zs? And how do we get them? How do we engage with them? Thirdly was the TikTok game. I looked at how the world views TikTok. For me, in SA, I thought TikTok is just for making short videos.
And
there's TikTok for business that shows you, in fact, the biggest view is the conversion lift study. Is how do we measure those clicks that go out, that customers to what we show from a profitability perspective. We think it's just about putting stuff onto a platform. At least I thought.
Yeah.
Maybe other
people thought. Thinking differently. Yeah.
It's like we just put stuff on platform, but key thing is how do we measure what we put on platforms to link to profitability. So how do we combine the CMO, the CFO, and the CEO to build growth for the business? And that's been key. And I'm looking forward to going to other markets, because AdWeek is there in Mexico and London, looking at other markets, how they think. But in New York and America, it's very key. It's measurements, it's females in the room, which is diversity, inclusion, and more importantly is how then do we kill this digital market where we now, stuff like TikTok are being used for business to measure growth.
Interesting stuff. And how do they perceive, Africa? Was Africa on the agenda?
We're still working at it. I've put that onto the table of the chairman. I think there's more that we can do in Africa. And I think for me, it's not now saying there are different markets in Africa. How do we as Africans unite to back one country that we know can show up for us in a way that we need to show up? We had AdWeek here.
We had it last year, and that Kevin Hart, and it was the World was a buzz, AdWeek.
Can we have a bigger buzz in West Africa with Nigeria? I don't know. Something that
got you.
Can we go there and see? But can we unite behind that element? Because marketing now or ads now, in the ads world, culture is massive. We talk about marketing at the speed of culture. Do we need to go to a point or a country where culture is so entrenched that it's a core of that nation, that we can then show the world that if we can go out there and market at the speed of culture, that we can win, and brands can win in that sense. Because I think if you look at the Brand Africa report, I think it states that most brands that are, or most Africans support brands that are not African.
Of course, actually year on year, it's always been under 20%, of the brands that Africans admire are actually made in Africa.
Now, maybe go look at how much, what's the contribution of Nigeria in that? And what is the spend on brands in Nigeria? And maybe that's where the shift is.
Yeah, but to be honest with you, I think South Africa is, if you look at the multi-choices of this world, you look at the F&Bs, if you look at, those kinds of brands, we're not doing really bad.
No, we're not.
And maybe this brings the question in terms of South African marketing and advertising industry and how it compares, to the rest of the world, particularly, one would say, across the ponds. Where are we? I had Peter Ukuribu.
Yes.
From Black Act, who's obviously advocating for diversity and inclusion of people of color at Cannes and all other major advertising platforms. He says South Africa, we're doing quite well, compared to the other, let's say, countries in the continent. But with your experience now from AdWeek and what you experienced there and what you saw, do you think there's areas of improvement?
Yes, we're doing well. We've got one of the top agencies that are sitting here that move around globally. My contention is, and let's not look at the population numbers. Say Nigeria's got 12 million, we've got only 64 million or whatever numbers. It's the way things are done. That spirit of entrepreneurship that is brewing in a country like Nigeria. Look at MTN Nigeria. I think MTN Nigeria carries the entire Nigerian group, the entire MTN group from a growth and sales perspective. How they market and brand. When I was in Showmax earlier on in the year, to look at how the Showmax Nigeria team pitched and rocked up.
Sure.
To put 40, 50 cars, Showmax branded in Lagos traffic, at peak traffic. It shows you the thinking.
But the Lagos traffic is always at peak.
and that for me, that's why I think culture plays a big role. Because yes, SA we're very diversified. We've got different groups of people, but we
and also I like to think we're sort of more sophisticated.
Absolutely. In a way. So and there's a battle between me as a Musoto with my blanket, and Mama as a Zulu person. You know, you as a Ndebele.
Yes.
But Nigerians pitch in the same way. The way they look and feel is the same.
They are clear.
And I've come to really appreciate that.
Gotcha.
And maybe when we say one Africa and unify as an African continent, they say, let's build one country that will make us be able to dent the global stage. Because people see us as Africans. They don't see South Africa. Maybe it's time that, yes, we come as different countries, but let's back one country and say, this is how we'll dent the global stages, and then from there, build from there to say, in this big continent, this is who we are. That's just my thinking. Because in that big 54 states, or 51 states, whatever number of states it is, you know, history is gone through, they pitch as US. They don't pitch as state this and Texas, that they pitch as US.
And they are ready to dominate.
And they dent the world. Chinese pitch as Chinese. Maybe is there a room for us to pitch as Africans?
Hey, maybe Thomas Sankara must come back.
You see, and that whole, you know, one African currency, those things are maybe a different topics. But how do we pitch in the world, I think is very important. Because no one said to me, are you Nigerian in New York in the street? They said to me, Africa is here.
But I must pick your brain, you know. I mean, we obviously were 2 months or a month or so, 2 months away from 2025.
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the trends that, you know, let me give you the crystal ball.
Look for it.
2025, and I mean, what do you think are some of the trends that will, you know, emerge, or what will continue? You know, what are we going to see more of, you know, in the coming year?
I think we're going to see the art of the content creators owning the content. and moving away from platforms owning the content. Because user generated content is becoming a big thing. Where even if you look at the streaming businesses, the likes of Netflix and Showmax and everybody else, the struggle there is around user generated content in the continent. Where if you go to Kenya and maybe Nigeria, you find that the biggest competitor is guys who, from a low cost perspective, generate content and create more subscription than the big guns. So the power of content creators is going to be a very massive thing. Where now they might, the shift will be them owning their own content versus it being on a platform. That's where I'm seeing the shift as. Secondly, for me, it's as we're talking at AdWeek, is the power of radio. We undermine the power of radio.
Interesting.
But if you look at the number of people, the number of listeners, take from Umhlwane and South Africa, the Cedi and the likes, they probably between the top 3 stations in South Africa, they command about 20 million listeners. So if you want to position a brand, and most of the spenders are sitting in the low end market, if you want to position a brand, you've got to. If you don't take those guys seriously, I think you're losing. Because times of prime time on TV are gone.
Gotcha.
Because now most of people view on demand. Times are gone where we're waiting for 8 o'clock to watch Generation. I watch whatever I want when I've got time. Therefore, you need to decide where you find the customer. So radio will play a big part. And
interesting you say that, because you know how our marketers are. You know, whenever there's a new platform that emerges, the old ones are dead, dying. and you say radio is where it's at. And pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. where my PhD also did a bit of uplifting is looking at the consumption and media synergy. And radio came out as a very big element.
Interesting. Actually, as I was talking, as you were talking, I was also starting to developing some questions around your PhD, in terms of what are some of the key findings.
Because before I go there, the last part is social media will play a big part. And also, that's why again, my view around TikTok for business is that use TikTok is, again, it's user-generated content and is where people have got the freedom. That's where now consumers and brands can now have conversations, and the art of storytelling in that element will be what wins.
So creativity then becomes, or creative, or what you post on those platforms becomes far more important than just posting for the sake of it.
And the power to measure what you're posting is important as well.
Then let's back to your PhD.
Yes.
Key findings.
Key findings.
What is on the literature review? I'm kidding.
Okay. We'll be here all day. No, let's start on why I thought about this topic. It's because for me, it's the way we advertise or market and solution to the low-end market is always the afterthought. And I'll make an example. When banks craft wealth or private banking solutions, they do that very well. And then when things don't work, they just dump it down to the low-end market.
Interesting.
And they expect the bankers to make it work.
Sure.
And nobody ever consults and go and understand what does the consumers want and need. And low-end market now, and I've always said, even on many platforms, the lower market is not stupid. They just don't have a lot like most people have. It's a money shortage.
Yes.
It's not a brain or aspiration shortage. So what I thought is, how do brands and corporates market, and what media consumption and media synergy marketers and media planners should be thinking about when marketing to this cohort of customers. And now you realize that a lot of stuff, I can make examples of other brands. There's, if you look at, for example, MultiChoice, for example, you would think the biggest churn or the biggest view of who brings the most money from a viewing perspective is guys on premium or on compact. It's access, my friend. It's the low end, because they are loyal, and the power of pricing. I still believe that when MultiChoice moved over from 99 Rand to 105 Rand, how much they've lost by just 6 Rand. So how do you market to this market? For me, it's very important. It's culture dictates. One of the businesses in Kwakwa that serves the low-end market, called BB Kitchen Carry. One of the biggest selling commodity is seawater and sand.
That's insane.
Because people culturally believe if I have seawater and sand, something happens for me. Whether it will cleanse me or to do whatever. The other one is Tokolosh salt.
My goodness.
This man, right?
Where does he find the Tokolosh salt?
However he does it, because people believe in the cultural element of that element, he gives them that. And that's, for me, is until we are able to think and see how this code of...
I'm sure there's an executive at ShopRite watching this say, sea salt, Tokolosh salt, there's no find.
I'm telling you, it's so big. I mean, a month ago, a friend of mine who has outlets in Lesotho, Malisuk, a white guy, said to me, man, let's talk. I want you to help me, because the people that we are competing with, are selling seawater and sand, and they are thriving. What are we not getting about these consumers that we should be getting?
Gotcha.
And that's, for me, it's culture is massive. If you and the third thing is, now I don't know if you saw an article where there was complaints about disrespect around after tears. Some funeral parlors now are saying part of your insurance is after tears. And
actually, I've experienced that firsthand quite recently, and it's a thing where they bring the staff
to the graveyard. If you cry, drink astropens, and then maybe you might feel better. We don't. But the issue is, the people will still go buy whatever alcohol brand that you say it's not, bring to them. give the customers what they want.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned the brand like Astropairs, which I think it's very expensive. And if you go to a pub back home, because I'm from, like the rurals, that thing is drank like water.
Man, the customers, we don't listen to customers.
And how it's marketed, I guess it's one of those things that even, what's his name? Tommy Hilfiger once said about his brand, that it's not for
but the people want it.
Culture wants it.
Yeah.
Culture consumes it.
So for me, that's one key. Culture is very important, and how we market to this, and also the understanding of language. Let me ask you a question, Pat. When you were young, since we come from the same areas, your mom will send you with a letter to your neighbor to ask for money, right? And then, or maybe the neighbor comes to your mom, asks for, Mahlangu kopa 50 rand, 2 days. Day 2 goes by, your mom sends you back to say, what? Ask for what?
Tsukiri.
No, my mom says, I want my money back. What do you say to the lady that you're going to? Amen, standard. Anywhere in the country, anywhere in South Africa, rural area, the term parcel was, even as I'm suit, go get parcel. Language is important, my friend. What language will we bring to the consumers? We can't come with corporate language to a code of consumers who know certain things. There's other stuff that I call this pesos of the world, but you use the term parcel somewhere. How many more customers can you get onto that platform who understand what parcel is? Send you money, parcel.
Sure.
Language is important. So how we advertise is that, and I know Mzamo did his PhD on language.
Oh yeah.
Advertising.
I know he's a big advocate of us using.
It's so critical. You cannot want to advertise in English to a crowd of people that don't speak English, because it will be lost in translation.
It's just go
absolutely
over people's heads.
Absolutely. So marketers out there, language, culture, make it work.
So you made mention of media consumption for your PhD, social media being a big part, radio being a big part. Any other interesting, just before we close on that?
TV becomes that, but social media and integration of mobile. More people are using mobile. In fact, in SA, people have 2 phones. Not because they want to keep incognito. It's because the low-end market live in a risky element of how they live. When they leave from home to taxi to work, they take that Jarara phone. That's why when you send a message on WhatsApp, they'll only respond in the evening, because they use their smartphones in the evening. It is easier to return that old phone when it's left behind in a taxi than to return an iPhone 16. So for me, is how mobile is going to work as a medium of penetration will be massive, but also understand timing, because you might want to advertise at lunchtime thinking that everybody's on lunch. Now who work at a factory, I get my phone only at night, and I can only view what you are at night.
Interesting. I mean, I feel like this is some sort of a masterclass in a way, because oftentimes because we sort of no longer in certain environments and moved up, in life, we tend to forget those nuances.
Absolutely.
Like you say, how you communicate with someone that does office work versus someone who works in a factory. It's worlds apart. Timing, like you say, although we have similar lunch times, but some people don't have access to their phone. Lunchtime, back to only at night. That's when you can access and consume social media content. I find that very fascinating. But also, time is running by, and I hope this is not the first time, the last time rather, you come into the Person Brands podcast. But I won't let you go without the infamous Pattern Brands quiz. Let's test your brand knowledge.
Yeah.
Let's see how well you know your brands, Mr. Brands.
Sure. Let's see.
Let's see.
But you're now gonna just expose me. No.
Let's see if you are indeed, the student of the industry. I'd like to think the first question is very simple.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of Rihanna?
Not really, but I know of Rihanna.
You know of Rihanna?
Yeah.
Okay, a simple question is, which beauty brand did Rihanna establish?
Sure, but you killed me. Pass.
Now let me give you some options.
Yeah.
I'll be kind.
Options.
Yeah, and remember, if you get it right, you get a pat.
Yeah.
And if you get it wrong, you get a slap.
Okay.
So let's see if you come right. Is it Fenty Beauty, Glossier One, Kyle Cosmetics, or Huda Beauty?
Sure. But give me 3 options. Don't give me 4 options. It's a lot.
Fenty Beauty, Glossier One, Kylie Cosmetics.
I think Kylie Cosmetics.
I can look at your partner doing this, saying he's letting me down.
Oh, bad.
You get a slap.
Number 2. Let's go number 2.
Fenty.
Oh man, I thought that was option 2, but yeah.
Yeah. This one, it's a giveaway.
Okay.
If you get this one wrong, I don't know where you've been. Maybe in New York. Which South African footwear brand is known for its stylish sneakers and social impact, and was reportedly liquidating?
Drip.
Okay. It came out fast. The drip came out fast.
No,
Get a pat.
No. I was quite disappointed because I'd hoped that he would thrive. Him and Theo have been close. I've tried to support what they're doing. Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah.
KFC, right?
Yes.
Recently partnered with an energy drink to make some sort of a combo. Which energy drink did they partner up with? And which also, by the way...
Play.
How did you know?
I think I saw it somewhere and I'm trying to understand how that works. And also it's something that I was talking with somebody when they're playing about.
Interesting. And you get a pat that didn't finish the question and gave options. But also it's a fascinating one.
Yeah.
If you look at the drinks sector.
Yes.
Energy drinks have now become the new cold drink.
Yeah.
In a way. And particularly if you look at the people in the lower sort of LSM as we call them, they drink it like they drink Coke.
Yeah.
Construction workers, and also because of size.
Yeah.
If you think about it, the size of Coca-Cola has gotten smaller, and the size of the energy drinks.
So it's doing 2 things. It's quenching thirst. It's also giving you energy. So I think it works.
2 in 1.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you got it right. You got
2 out of 3. So I'm 66%.
Yeah. So 2 out of 3 or 2 out of 5. 2 more questions.
Okay.
2 more questions. Which brand designed We the People?
Thebe brand. Thebe cheese.
Okay, this man's not gonna let me finish. I'm getting disappointed. let me find.
At least I'm now trying to redeem myself from the other one.
Let me switch it up. Let me find harder questions. Because you know too much. You know too much. Let's see if you've been following the Yoba story.
Okay.
Which brand received the Global Excellence Award at the... You were there?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Let's see if you remember. I'm not gonna give you options because you were there.
No, I want. Now, how do I forget this name now? Because I can see the owner. It's a haircut brand, man. It's a
Global Excellence Award at the U.
Help me. And
okay, let me give you options.
And our kids love to cut their hair. Legends, Baba.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
you get a slap.
Ah, come on.
You were there.
Oh,
It was the biggest moment
oh
of the
man.
Legends Baba didn't get an award this year.
Was it last year?
It was last year.
Yes. Ish.
But this year, and it was the first of its kind. It means you're not listening.
Hey,
Mr. Brand.
I went out. Maybe I went
It
out.
was the biggest moment of
I
the
went
evening.
out. I went out.
It was Thebe Magugu.
Oh yes, it was. But you know what? To my rescue, at that point, I had an emergency at home, and I left early.
Oh, you left?
Yes.
Oh, so yeah, it was towards the
Yes,
end.
yes.
When we.
But I remember I was actually sitting behind him. I
Yeah.
remember, yeah.
So it was Thebe Magugu.
No, and
You know,
he's doing well. He's doing
phenomenally
He's doing
well
great work.
in putting the South African flag or flying the South African flag high.
Yeah.
You know, and building a really solid, I'd say, brand. Have you been to the Thebe Magugu house?
No, I've not been. But I was talking to the CEO of Brand SA, and she said I need to go there. So
Yeah, you need to go
definitely,
there.
Definitely.
Actually, I think it's Time 100
Yeah.
announced it as one of the places you must visit, you know,
No.
by the end of 2024.
No, then I definitely.
So now you know where to
Next
go.
month I'm going.
You know where to go for your next date.
Thank you. It's done.
Thank you so much, man.
No.
You're such a great sport,
No,
and
thanks,
and
man.
thank you for your generosity. You know, in just sharing your time with us and your knowledge and experiences. We really appreciate it. So, just as a parting shot, you know, just look into the camera, give an advice to an aspiring marketer. You know, someone. I get a lot of messages. People saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, Pat, how do I make it in this industry?" But you are way ahead of me, I'd like to think. But just an advice to a young Tumelo, you know.
I think the biggest thing for me is just keep on dreaming, and your dreams are relevant. And things won't happen overnight. Have a long-term plan, and as I said in other platforms, for me is write down your dreams. That's because there's a theory and a science around hand-brain and hand-brain coordination. What you write down, your brain absorbs, and what your brain absorbs brings to fruition and
Sure.
reality. So write your dreams down, and I promise you they'll happen. Because what you write down, you then take into your brain. It becomes internalized in what you need to be doing, and that's how dreams come true.
And any, I'd say, challenge to your fellow marketers, to your peers.
Sure. I think for me it's let's start bringing the investment component into it. Let's aim to partner with the CFOs, because the biggest gap currently is the CMO and the CFO are not aligned. If we get that aligned, I think would make the job of the CEO easier, and brands and marketing, or brands in themselves, as they push out there to market, they can bring profitability and customer growth. And those two things are the things that corporates care about is do we make money, are we increasing customers? And if we can do that as marketers, it makes the jobs easier.
Amazing. Solid advice, solid challenge out there to the marketing community. For those that do not know, actually, I co-authored the book every marketer should most definitely read, which is now available at all reputable bookstores. Do make sure that you get yourself a copy, especially for someone who wants to grow, in this industry, and you're just interested about marketing, and you're interested in learning from some of the best minds in South Africa.
I'm getting one, don't worry.
Yeah.
I think you there with Alistair, right?
Yes, the Prof Alistair,
Yes.
Alistair Mokoena.
Yes.
There with Thebe.
Yes.
There with Dale Heffer. Of the IMC. There's just brilliant marketers, man. Tulan Sibego, who was also here on the podcast at the beginning or earlier on this year. It's a brilliant book that I think every marketer should read.
Should have. Share.
And share.
Yeah.
There I talk about the 5 C's of building a winning brand.
Yeah.
I'm just simplifying this marketing thing in this chapter. So I'm pretty sure all of you, whether you're a marketer or not, you will find something in this book in order to resonate with you, and especially those that are SMME owners, because I know you guys don't like spending on marketing. You think marketing is wasteful expenditure, but what you don't know is that your brand can be your number one asset. You know, there's a favorite thing. My favorite quote is by why is his name running away from me? The chief strategist at Ogilvy UK. He's now the chairman. Rory Sutherland. He says, "Good marketing and branding allows you to play the business game on easy mode."
Nice.
So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I am Pat Mahlangu. It's Inacha Ailale.
Thank you, Pat.